Eternity: The Last Unicorn is a new indie action RPG that definitely feels like a game that was inspired by a few PS2 titles I played. It uses fixed camera angles, which is a throwback to older titles where they could use those angles to hide stuff for the player. I like these games that use them, but there are drawbacks to using them as well. Sometimes the fixed camera angles could make fighting a bit tricky if the angles change or if you're getting hit from someone off screen. The same can be found with Eternity. I did enjoy moving about the environments and trying to find hidden goodies to grab. The combat, though, is a large part of the game. You will be doing a lot of hacking and slashing. You play as two different characters and they feel a bit different with their own weapons and special moves. The elf is a bit more graceful. With her, you'll be able to rely on her parrying ability. The Viking also has the parrying ability, but he's more of a brute force kind of guy with stronger strength and also carries a shield. When the game and the combat is working well, the hack and slash combat is not the most involved, but it is enjoyable. Sadly, the combat does have problems, one being that you can easily grab an item during combat and that will make you vulnerable for a time. The same can be said when you use your special move. In most games, I would generally say that when you unleash your special move, you are invulnerable, but not here. You can still take damage and there's some wind-up time to using it, giving the enemies plenty of time to take you down. You can die rather quickly as well. Then you have enemies that will knock you down and you need to wait for your character to get back up to be able to parry or block. But while you are getting back up, you can take damage. It felt more cheap than hard, if that makes sense. I think if the combat was more responsive and refined, the entire experience would be better. I did run into a few odd glitches as well. One was where I went into a new area and the camera didn't change appropriately, but rather went back to a few rooms that I was just in. Thankfully no enemies were there or I would have died. I had a few instances where enemies would not attack me, and I had one instance where my sword just wouldn't connect to an enemy. Besides the glitches, the presentation is decent, but I think what helps this game is its soundtrack. There are many calming and relaxing tracks that I rather enjoyed. Overall, I love the idea of having an action RPG hack and slash game that's inspired by older PS2 games, but I do think that this game is a bit too rough to really recommend. I ended up getting frustrated with the combat and the game as a whole, and thus I couldn't finish it. So there is a potential that this game does get better later on, but if so, I do not know. The combat itself is an area that I think this game needs to have more refinement in to really make it more engaging. I do think Eternity takes a promising concept but needs to work more on its execution. I hope the developers work on patching the game, and if they do, this definitely would be one to return back to. I would only recommend you check this one out on a deep sale if you are really interested. For everyone else, I do not recommend it. Thank you very much for watching.
Dude.